Conversations with Friends. Conversations with Friends.
Conversations with Friends.
Hey, welcome everyone. We're gonna have a great conversation. This is Conversation with Friends, episode 2. Season 2, episode 7, and we're looking forward to having this conversation. And the topic of today's show is situational awareness, dealing with this new generation. It could be quite interesting, definitely from a parent's perspective. So tonight we're going to have a conversation about decorum and being able to navigate when you hear these younger people's conversations and what they talk about, and where's the line of respect, where's the line of understand that you got to know the room. So myself and this beautiful chef of mine, as I always like to call her, Melodiq Storm, are here. What's up, young lady?
Hello. What's up, Q?
It's been beautiful last couple months. The weather has been very interesting, to say the least. Not as cold as it was that Christmas weekend,
Right.
but it's been fairly good. Got a lot of things looking forward to the foreseeable future. A lot of stuff in store in reference to Let's Talk, and I know we have some stuff that we definitely want to do with Conversations with Friends and moving forward, and basically, as we would say, having those difficult conversations.
For sure.
So situational awareness and dealing with our youth.
Yes.
You wanna lead and explain, the template of the show?
Oh, for sure. I definitely think this is one of those touchy topics. That's for sure. I do want to give a definition of situational awareness. Situational awareness is the perception of environmental elements and events with respect to time or space, the comprehension of their meaning, and the projection of their future status. Okay. That being said, I think definitely as parents, we run into a lot of different situations with these kids in regards to the way that we were raised. I want to say Generation X is probably like the last, generation where, we just had certain standards and a certain level of respect. And then you have the millennials and Generation Y, where it's just, it's a toss-up. So some of the things that I run into as a parent, and just talking to my friends and talking to you and talking to some of your friends, etc. Just the conversations that we have, it's amazing. Just the fact that some kids just don't understand boundaries, because that's something we always talk about. Respect, moral, and just your moral high ground, and just different parenting styles.
Yeah, it's funny because you never, and you cringe. It's like cringeworthy to see that where we're at now in life, and we hated the get off my lawn parent.
Right.
And you ask yourself, you always second guess yourself and say, am I becoming that person, to get off my lawn person, and always want to be critical of our youth and not having the open door policy? I know me and you have talked on a personal level of our relationships with our mothers.
Yep.
And I think that when we both categorize our relationship with our mothers was having that open door policy to being
Yep.
able to share whatever you can with your mother.
Right.
And it's kind of amazing because you always, if you feel as though that, and I know a lot of times people don't feel as though that they had a great relationship with their parents, but if you
Right.
know you had a great relationship with your parent, you want to
Right.
translate that with your kids.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it's like, okay, how I'm gonna do it, but I need them to understand like respect. And
Right.
I was telling you this one conversation, and we're gonna be honest. To be able to have this type of textual conversation would be the sex conversation, dealing with my son and dealing with his girlfriend.
Right.
I love her like a daughter. I love her. She's a beautiful young lady, and she shared some things with me
Mm.
that made me feel very uncomfortable at the time.
Right.
You know,
Right.
I don't want to embarrass her if she was to watch the show, but it kind of caught me off guard because I think that sometimes with parents, some parents are the same, they parent the same in this
Hmm.
instance. But I wasn't the parent that was ready to hear that. You
Right.
know,
Right.
some men may be like, that's my dude, that's my son. I'm glad, as we say, getting his stripes. That wasn't the issue. The issue was not not too much in the details, but certain things I thought that just caught me off guard, and it was like a punch in
Right.
the mouth. Like, oh,
Right.
you know,
Some things should be implied. Some things are better left unsaid.
yeah, yeah,
You know.
and and it's funny because I go back to my relationship, and I always look at it like my relationship with my mother. What I would have done at his age, and what I was doing at his age, and it's really bad because my son is 26,
Okay.
and I had him at 26. So it's like, okay. No, actually, I was 22 when I had him. Man, I said
Okay. Okay.
26. I was 22 when I had him. I'm aging myself now. Now I'm making myself too old.
Wow.
Um, so I look at him as like, he's doing good for himself. He's making a good life for himself.
Hmm.
But there's no way his life is anything compared to
Like
what
yours
I
was.
was doing at his age. So then I look at it and be like, give him grace and be like, oh, I'm not going to judge him. And
Right.
then, like you said, dealing with their youth and being exposed to different conversations and wanting to always keep that open door policy, but you don't want to know certain things.
Agreed.
You,
Well,
you
and discretion. I think discretion is definitely a word that we use um, in my house regarding. I I have an open door policy for sure, but I don't need to know the explicit details of certain situations. You know what I mean? And vice versa. Just like I think I have the conversation with my kids, like, there's certain things that you wouldn't want me to share with you. And, I just hope that, you use the same reference when you're sharing something with me. There's certain things that I don't need to I just don't need to know all of the gory details.
yeah, yeah. It's definitely interesting because you go back to giving your kids or giving the younger, I'll just say the younger adults, you establish a level of privacy,
Right.
but like certain things you won't do in the house. My mother was the type of mother that she didn't want us to lie. She didn't worry about us lying to him. She just ain't want us to lie, and she used to allow us to do a lot of stuff
Mm-hmm.
that maybe I wouldn't allow my son to do around me.
Okay.
But even with me, like now my son and his girlfriend, they live together. They've been living together for a while, and it's like, okay, like I don't feel awkward. It's just a matter of respecting their privacy,
Right.
respecting what they're doing. I know one time and as you know, they live closer towards you, and they
Mm-hmm.
came up towards me for his birthday to celebrate. And
Okay.
They was at the hotel, and I felt like, okay, should I go see him, or nah, I'm gonna just get them their privacy. So I was in the catch 22, and I just happened to got caught up at work, and I didn't go, but I gave them their privacy, and just allowing them to be who they are. In certain conversations, we had a conversation about children, about them having children, and my son said some things that was interesting, and she said some things that was interesting. I just sat back and just listened, and if they did ask me for my advice on what they want to do and how they go about it, I wouldn't say much. But like you, I don't need to know details and stuff like that. And
Right.
it's hard because this generation now is fluid, not just in their sexuality, but they're fluid in life.
Mm-hmm.
Like literally, you could see one that they may be in their room all day on a video game, and for all we know, they could be making money because these kids are very intelligent as well. But then we'll look at them and be like, "Nah, you're gonna get out there and you're gonna be a part of the working society."
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden, something may just click in them and just make them do. Because I got nephews, and even with them, it's like what motivates them to do, like their why. Like we understood our why. We
Right.
understood, and I think a lot of it comes from, I know a lot of statements be floating around like on social media where it says tough times make strong men, easy times make weak men. I'm not going to agree with the whole premise, but I will say that we come from an era where, in spite of our situations, we had to work hard.
Agreed.
We had to get out here and be a part of the working society, have an idea, have a plan on
Right.
what we wanted to do with our lives. And we don't want our kids to be in the same situation that we had. We saw our parents struggle to maintain, in our eyes, they struggled. In their eyes, they did what they had to do. So then we
Right.
transfer that and we deal with our children,
Right.
and they reap the benefits of the hard work that was put in generationally. And it's like, are they taking advantage of the opportunity? Like they got the world right here.
Right.
Like they got the world. Like we didn't have this. We
Yeah.
had to hardcore do stuff. So
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's so funny because when I make reference to my tribe, first of all, I love to talk to people. I won't say that I'm a people person, but I'm definitely a people watcher.
you're I'll categorize you. You're personally private.
I'm absolutely personally private.
Personally
Absolutely.
private.
But I will say this, that I have a great tribe, male and female, and we speak all the time. Like we're constantly in contact, and I've built some very strong, absolutely amazing relationships over the course of my life. And in all honesty, it's like some of the situations that you go through as a parent, you would think that you were totally losing your mind if you didn't have, points of reference. Because you're like, this is unbelievable, what just happened. And like you said, like this generation is definitely very fluid, and they don't believe in one. It's too harsh.
Participation trophies and stuff like that.
Right. But they will try to correct you as a parent.
Yeah.
And I find that quite amazing, because I'm like, you haven't even lived life. I definitely value your opinion and I value what you have to say, but there's right is right and wrong is wrong. Just,
you do find yourself like you said, if you not having that tribe and being able to bounce ideas and thoughts and situations off with the tribe,
right,
you will lose it, because
absolutely,
I really firmly believe that it's just a hardship. Kids don't understand the hardship that the parent may have went through. I don't want to use the word trauma because sometimes trauma may have a bad connotation to it,
Right.
but like the hardship of, you know, we got to be honest. Like we're 2-3 generations away from slavery.
Yep.
I mean, you know, our grandparents were in slavery.
Right.
I mean, that's just a fact, and it's like, okay, now we know that the world is progressive. It still strides. Still things you got to do. How you I'm just using you for an example. How you would talk to the boys, different
Right.
than talk to your daughter, and like with me having a son, having them conversations like, yo, how you got to move about the world. Like
Right.
it's different than when we were kids. It's even
Absolutely.
more heightened awareness now. Like, you know, if you at work, having a relationship with somebody at work and co-workers, male
Right.
or female, what's
Right.
said, um, how they go about when they go out. It's interesting. We're knowing a little bit about yourself and myself, how we knew New York subway system, and we used to travel on the train at a younger age than our children.
Yep.
And like I remember one time my son was in the city and I cringed like, oh gosh, like, and he was with his mother. And it's like, okay, he's all right. I felt good when she's around him. And, you know, it's just the thought of, okay, then he had went to Florida recently, like him and his girlfriend. And I like, okay, let's see how this goes. And I try not to worry about it, but you automatically worry.
Absolutely.
Because,
As a parent. Right.
yeah. Because at
Right.
the end of the day, like, it's like,
Right.
as kids would say, I know dad, I know mom. No, you don't know.
You have no
You don't
idea.
know.
Okay.
You don't
The
know.
funny thing is, you said that you cringed when your son was on the New York City subway, right? My kids are from Harlem. We moved to the suburbs when they were young, and my oldest son now, you know, was traveling in Harlem, Midtown, etc., and he absolutely loves it. Like he's always in New York. He's always on the subway, whether he's on, you know, goes to the subway to New Jersey Transit or whatever. He's like, oh, I'm going to Harlem for the weekend. You know, it's whatever. And at first, I cringed. I was like, not my baby. You know what I mean? But I was like, damn, I remember, I think I started riding the train and the bus at like 10, 11 years old by myself. You know, I definitely think that, you know, it was absolutely a different time. But when you think about it, we grew up in the crack era.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
so
it was
you
it
know,
was rough.
right,
It was
right,
rough, and even speaking for you, like I grew up in North Jersey,
right,
and you guys in the city, y'all had to know that stuff. For
right,
us, it was more of a weekend thing, going over
right.
doing certain things, and like you guys, it's nothing. It's like second nature to, and it's like weird that, like you said, when you think about the era and you think about how bad it really used to be. Like,
Yeah. It was real bad. But you know what's crazy? You know what's different about today than it was back in the day? We had neighborhood moms and grandmoms and granddads, etc., that looked out for you. Because you could be all the way like 6-7 blocks from your house, and you were definitely going to see somebody from around the block that you
yeah,
knew. And if
yeah.
you were out there cutting up, trust me and believe me, by the time you got home, your parents was going to know about it.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting because it goes back to, like you said, going. I was telling a coworker this week about we were talking about the tunnel, and I was telling them about the tunnel, but they didn't know the language of the tunnel. So then I was like, well, you know, I hung with different people, so I knew about the limelight. They knew about the limelight. I'm telling them crazy stories about the village and being young and just, you know, going over there and being able to eat different foods, understand different
Right.
cultures, and how, like now, you know, the kids.
Now the limelight is a she food shop. You can
Yeah.
go buy clothes there.
Yeah, it
You know, right?
it definitely don't got the fuzzy room no more. I'll tell you.
I bet.
But it's amazing how, like, when you translate that to what the kids do now, I'm not going to say that they don't have the fun that we used to have, because they do. I'm quite sure they make their own fun,
Right.
but times have changed.
For sure.
We hear more now about definitely our younger women being abducted,
Right.
and it's like, are we living in different times? Is it worse? I don't know. I never really looked at the statistics that much to look at,
Right.
is it worse than when we were kids? I know crime, it just seems, maybe because the advent of social media seems like it's on the rise, and it's like, as a parent, you just have that worried mentality, and it's like I always say, they're gonna say, I know mom, I know dad.
Well, the funny thing is, again, situational awareness. I think that these kids are very, very trusting. I think that now that their net is cast further out because of social media, they're very trusting of people online. They're very, oh, my friend, your friend. Where did this friend come from? From California. Wait a minute. When
Yeah.
California via what? New York? No,
I know.
California, they're coming up for a visit and we're gonna meet up. I'm like, oh, hold on a minute. You
I know
know?
you was sharing something with me a while ago, but I remember when I had when you had your party, and I came down there, and I didn't even tell you this, but I get to my son's house first before I came to your house,
Okay.
and I was like, "Yo, can you take me to this?" I was like, "Yo, I gotta go to the store." He's like, "Nah, I'll take you." It was the first time I ever let him drive me somewhere.
Okay.
So I'm one of them drivers. I'm a mirror driver. I play my mirrors heavy. So I'm looking at him drive. I'm sitting in the seat, and I didn't
Panicking.
I didn't press the emergency that imaginary brake over there by your right
Okay.
foot in the
Okay.
passenger side. But I was, I wasn't nervous, which was interesting, because he was one of them people that was cautious. I remember before, when he first started trying to drive, he would press the gas real fast and hard. I'm like, dude, slow down. But it was amazing how that was the first time, and then I thought about it after I left, and I was like, I really let him drive me somewhere, yo. Like,
Right.
and he got on the highway. You know how it is down that way. He was all on 22 and 78, and I'm like, oh my goodness, yo.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it can be a little crazy down there. So I do think we're dealing with our youth. It's more the conversation of decorum, and having that open door policy. I know when he had turned 21, he was going to school up by me. And I went and seen him, took him to the store. He was hanging out with his friends, and one of his college friends, who's like family, they were talking, and they just was having a conversation. And I don't know if they looked at me like, oh, Jahan, dad is cool, but I thought it was interesting of their conversation and what they were doing as college kids on the dorm. Because you always got to have that crazy talk with the youth, because
Right.
they know everything. So, but you still got to have to talk, and still be willing to have the talk, and just getting them to make right decisions. Definitely when they're partying and having fun.
Agreed. I think that when it came to like us growing up, we would censor ourselves to a certain degree. You know what I mean? Because I can remember being in high school, and we would be on the train and we would cut up on the train.
Like,
But if an adult got on the train, we would stop. You know what I mean? And you had a certain level of respect. And I find that I'm not seeing that. And it absolutely blows my mind, because I also feel like that starts at home. There have been instances where, like, let's say I go to a basketball game, and the kids are in there and they're cutting up. And I never want to seem like, oh, this is the old mom or whatever. But I just remember growing up, like, the N-word. There were certain places that certain people wouldn't use that word. You know what I mean? Just like it's not cool to say that here. Or it's not, and whereas now, I don't see that. And I'm just like, oh man, you take 2 steps forward and 10 steps back. You absolutely have to know where we came from to know where you're going. And if you don't, and you're just throwing that word around in certain, situations, it's not a good look. It's not a good look. And it makes us look bad as a people.
It's funny. I find myself, and I'm glad that you titled the show "Situational Awareness." I find myself sometimes when issues do happen that are very public,
Hmm.
and you dealing with other races, they do. It does sound like they're tiptoeing to say certain things.
Hmm.
Maybe trying to be aware of who else is in the room.
Hmm.
But I'm more of like, say what's on your mind, because I view it a little different. I view a lot of things with understanding that we have made that term a term of endearment, right, wrong, and indifferent, and like at the end of the day, like why? Like why did we look at that term? Like if you
I've never
attack it,
used it as a term of endearment. I've never used it. If I'm using that word on the rare occasion that I do use it, oh, I'm using it to insult you. That's an insult to me. I am ripping you down. I am tearing you a new one. That word and the B word. That is not a term of endearment for me. I'm disrespecting you.
I
I'm
haven't.
disrespectfully disrespecting you. You know
I
what I
remember
mean?
one time, I haven't had that experience with my son, but
Hmm.
I remember one time I heard one of my friend's kids giving it to somebody. They was ripping them,
Hmm.
and they ain't see me. And then
Hmm.
when they see me, they was like, "Oh," they stopped. But I felt uncomfortable. I'm like, "Ooh, that was rough." The way they was giving it to somebody, and it's like,
Hmm.
just understanding, like I said, when you start getting older, you don't view things the same, and you start seeing your mortality. So you start realizing, like, yo, I'm
Yep.
trying to preserve, I'm trying to be here, I'm trying to
Mhm.
move right. I'm not trying to get in no bad or situations where um I may not make it out of.
There you go.
Or not just with my life, but with my freedom. So it's interesting when you look at the world with that type of lens now,
Right.
because when I was young, I didn't care. Like I remember, like I cussed this lady out, and like
Hmm.
even to this day, I mean, and we talking about over 30 years that this happened. I
Hmm.
mean, and I feel bad about it now.
Right.
Like I apologize. I remember apologizing at the time to her, apologizing to her husband, and her husband was like became like an uncle to me.
Hmm.
Always like mentored me. Always gave me good advice when I seen him. And like even now, I'll be like, man, I remember I called her a B,
Mm.
and I feel so bad. Like, but I ain't feel bad then when I first did it. No, I ain't care. I ain't care.
The funny thing is, I'm going to tell you about a situation that transpired with me. I mean, I get it, and I know that there are cultural differences. I know that we all raise our kids differently, but there are just certain things that I feel like you should be aware of, um, like songs,
Uh-oh.
as an example.
Uh-oh.
There are certain songs that may play on the radio, and even though they're playing the edited version, just because there are no curse words in the song, the content may be a little dicey, you know. And my thing is be aware of what you're saying. Be aware of what's coming out of your mouth. You know what I mean? Because just because it doesn't it's not laced with profanity, it still may be inappropriate to say around adults.
You
Just
know, you know, I
out of respect.
I found myself recently really questioning a lot of the music. We know that we did have some artists when we were kids, even when our parents was kids, that were edgy. I forget the lady's name that made the song "Fu." I forget her name offhand.
Okay.
Um, but when you look at nowadays, mainstream, with all due respect to our women, the mainstream women rappers right now are all ex strippers, and it's
Absolutely.
scary.
But
It's
the thing is, I'm not knocking anybody's
yeah, you're not knocking for how they
hey,
evolve as
right.
artists, but it's like the content. Yeah,
It's
but they got to grow. I mean, but it's funny how even with some of the guys, and I don't want it to seem like I'm just getting on the younger females, but the indecency sells for them when they
and
start growing.
okay, so I'm gonna say this, Q, because you know I gotta put it out there. I gotta keep it 100 because of what I do. I'm a spoken word artist. I don't believe in censorship when it comes to your art, but I feel like when it comes to your kids, know what to say and know what not to say and who to say it around.
And that goes back to somebody, and I don't want to turn the show on her. I always think Cardi B is one of the most interesting people because
I like Cardi B.
when you look at some of her content when she
Hmm.
first came out and how she started, and you see her evolve to
Hmm.
who she is now, and it's
Hmm.
like if you were very critical of her and you looked at her like with the one eye, and you would really see like if you look at she's a wife now, she's a mother, and she's really came a long way with her content. And I always ask myself when you look at the music, and we remember Tupac, and we both live in the state where Dolores Tucker was from. I'm like, yo, was this woman right, or was she just to get off my lawn person, and she's the reason for that explicit lyrics thing? Because she was coming at Tupac about his lyrics, and it's like, why was she going so hard at him? What was she trying to? And not being critical of the elder, may she rest in peace. But what was she trying to convey? What was she trying to teach? Not, you know what I mean? Like, so I always find myself like, maybe her approach would have been better with just attacking the genre, because it's only that genre. It's weird.
Right.
They attack sometime on hip hop, knowing it's the number one genre in the world, and what it has generated and how it has made blacks a lot of money, and nobody else attacks other genres. But even if you're gonna attack it, you may get on me.
I say look at it for what it is. It's entertainment. It's
Hmm.
entertainment. And take it as that. Again, I never want anyone to censor their art form. If that's how you feel you want to express yourself, then I say that's how you express yourself. But I also say that teaching is done at home. And prime example, when we get in the car and my kids get in the car, I know that they listen to rap songs. I know they listen to inappropriate music, especially when I'm not around. But know this, know what to put on and what not to put on when you're in the car with me. Because if you put something on in the car with me that's inappropriate and I'm not feeling it, oh, trust me and believe me, you're going to hear about it. First of all, turn the song off. What made you think that it was okay for you to play that song with me in the car? It's no situational awareness.
Yeah,
Know
yeah.
where you are. Know your audience.
I remember around my son was around 6 or 7, and he used to sing. He used to love Eminem. It's weird because at the time he wasn't living in Detroit, but he wound up moving to Detroit.
Okay.
But I remember this guy sung "Lose Yourself" word for word, and I hear him little rapping. The song come on, and I turn around, and I hear him. He just bopping and rapping. I'm like, I said, you know this song? He's like, yeah, Dad, this Eminem. Just "Lose Yourself." And I'm saying to myself, okay, okay. And even now, I know he knows or listens to the stuff, but it's like you said, like having that type of upbringing, or as a parent, you teaching them right from wrong and getting them not to understand that the music, it does, as you always say, like it imitates life. It's art. It's an art form,
Absolutely.
and you don't want the censorship, but you don't want you want people to understand like this is entertainment now.
Right.
Um, and I even had that issue, believe it or not, with how many older rappers. And I guess, this is the dilemma that we're at, and this is why this conversation was needed. how many rappers were coming out against drill music. They were like, "Oh, this drill music. Drill music was the root of crime." I totally disagreed with that. I will say some of the content of drill music is a little crazy, and some of the thought process of some of these young artists saying like, "That's my ops," and this, just got to get them to understand like, it's not that serious, man. It's like, you're not playing Call of Duty. Call of Duty's a video game. It's not real. So
put it like this: there are certain songs that I won't. I love rap music. I love hip hop. I love all different genres of music. But there are certain songs that I will not play in the car with my kids. You understand what I'm saying? Again, situational awareness. Recognize your audience and know that everything is not appropriate for everybody, and that's all.
I remember one time and this is interesting. I'm gonna tell this story, right? My son had a Facebook page when he was younger, and then he stopped. He lost the password. He went. So I'm like, "Yo, get on Facebook," because he had lived in another state, and then when we moved in the same state, it was different. And I said, "Yo, get on Facebook." He said, "Man, Facebook is for old people." I'm like, "Huh? What are you talking about?" He's like, "Yeah. All y'all old people on there, all y'all do is talk about stories in the past." I'm like, "Man." So then he started a Facebook page, and then I had a conversation with him about my page, and said, I would never want to put nothing on Facebook to embarrass him.
Right.
And then I thought about like my aunts, like having a Facebook page, being in different groups, and even this show. With being edgy and being able to talk about certain things,
right,
but still realizing like, you're putting something out there that the whole world can possibly see.
Absolutely.
That 10 years down the line, somebody can see. So that's even why I'm always very understanding and trying to be objective with certain positions that I take, because we all change, we all evolve, and your thoughts.
Absolutely.
But like you said, having a situational awareness and being able to understand like somebody's watching. you ain't in the car blacking out, driving to work or whatever. So, it's interesting.
Right. There are certain songs that I play when I'm driving and I'm in the car by myself that may be totally inappropriate. You know what I mean?
But what's funny is and I'll just share a little bit about with everybody that potentially watch the show. Even with me and your conversation, like me and you talk bug out. If you curse and you catch me off guard, I'll be cringing on the other end of the phone. I'll be like, and it really is all about if you know somebody and you know how they talk, how they move. It just be catching you so off guard. I'd be like, what?
And just so you know, maybe not on the show, but I'm a cursor. So and he was like, "Woo!" Oh,
yeah. So it's funny that we have that type of friendship,
right?
And you want to be able to be like, "Yo, I'm calling you. I'm not calling you to ask you how you doing and tell you how I'm doing. I'm calling to vent. So you just be prepared." But that's situational awareness. That's letting me know. Right. Be prepared. Or if I call you for the same thing, because I'm lately I just haven't talked to you as much, but I know I've been wanting to call you to burn your ear out, because it'd be some foolishness going on. It'd be some foolishness going on. I always say, man, and Keisha and Dwayne always remind me, gotta be aware of the room. Gotta know how we're gonna land, and
absolutely,
I think it's very important. I saw something that happened last night on social media, and I believe the premise of the tweet was right. But when them tweets land and the people, because see, the people are funny.
Oh, people are fickle.
The same thing that lands good 6 months ago,
right?
It may not land good today. And I saw it, and they are getting dragged. And it's interesting how it goes. So,
right. No, you're absolutely right. I agree with you 100%. You absolutely need to know your audience and know what's appropriate and what's inappropriate and handle yourself accordingly. Sorry. whether you're an adult, whether you're a kid, or what have you. Discretion plays a major role. And again, I mean, I think we keep coming back to this topic, Quentin. Boundaries. boundaries. Always boundaries, your boundaries and others.
It is funny when we do what we do, and we create and we try to be around other people. And I'll say this: we're social engineers, and we're out here in the world, and we're meeting new people. And going back to the genesis of Conversation with Friends and the first show we ever done, and understanding those boundaries, I don't think we could get away from them. And I know it's not a trending thing or a catchy thing that's just here right now. Oh, we won't talk about boundaries for 2 years. I think boundaries has to be established in any relationship.
Absolutely.
I mean, you may be in a situation where, you may have a relationship with my son, and my son may feel comfortable telling you certain things that he may not tell me. And even with my son now, I know things that his mother don't know. She knows things about him that I don't know now, and he knows that. But now, when it comes to if they're gonna be harmful, me and her will have a conversation. I know a lot of people always say, "Well, kids are grown. Your child is grown. What are y'all?" We're not those type of parents, and I get it. I truly understand. But even with my dad and my mother wasn't together, but they had conversations that would still it would affect me, because at the end of the day, what you do affects your kids.
Absolutely. Everything that you do affects your kids, whether you want to admit it or not. It absolutely does.
And vice versa for anybody in the chat. What your kids do affect you, because your kids is mannish. People gonna be looking at you like, damn, how was they raised right?
Right. And your kids are a reflection of who you are and what's done in your home. The funny thing is, I had a conversation with some adults and with some teenagers. And they actually said to me, well, what if, referencing another teenager, well, what about their parent? And I'm like, what about their parent? One thing I'm going to say is I'm going to treat your kids I'm going to treat your kids like I treat my kids. And I always take a protective role over kids in general. I understand that their minds are not fully developed their brains are not fully developed until they're 25. But let's be honest, we did some real stupid things when we were kids. Q.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? And I'm never going to tear anyone down. But if you do something that I deem as disrespectful, I'm going to let you know about it. I'm not going to be rude and disrespectful to you, because I'm always going to have respect. But that wasn't cool. Why did you say that? Or why did you do that? And if anybody's parent has a problem with it, I'm like, oh, come talk to me. Let's talk. Let's go. Because I really want to find out, honestly, why was situational awareness not used in that instance, and you couldn't tell right from wrong. To me, there's something wrong there.
Yeah. And growing up in two different, we grew up in two different areas of the country,
right,
that quote unquote would be totally different. However, the village concept has always been there for us.
Absolutely.
And regardless of where we move, and regardless of what our kids go on in life, they have to understand that neighbor is supposed to say something to you if you're doing wrong, and it affects that neighbor as well, because it does, like certain things does affect. And we've gotten to the point, unfortunately, where, oh, you can't say nothing to my child,
and that's fine, but keep your child away from me. How about that? That's absolutely fine. But if you're like that, then make sure that your kid is not invading my personal space, because I would hope that if you saw one of my kids in a situation that you deemed inappropriate, or that most adults would deem inappropriate, you would step in and you would say, hey, that's not cool. Don't do that. And I wouldn't be upset about it.
I know that for the most part, kids have their own, they all got their own brain, they all got their own thinking pattern. But for the most part, what I did notice is a lot of kids take the temperament of their parents.
Right.
Like road rage. I'll just use road rage for example. I remember one time I was in the car with a friend of mine and they were going ballistic.
Mm.
And I looked at them, I'm on the passenger side, I looked at them like, it's not that serious.
Right.
Because I understand where it could have went.
Right.
Chasing each other down, don't know who got a weapon or who can get to their weapon quick enough.
Right.
And it's like, for me,
it's not worth your life.
Yeah, for me, my whole thing is road rage is okay. If you want to be mad at me, I'll move over and you just get where you're going. And I hope that my son and his travels feels the same way. But
Right.
For the most part, I think a lot of times like you said, is that it goes back to the parenting and who raised, as they say, who raised you,
Right.
and being able to navigate and move about the right way.
Absolutely.
So,
Yes.
do you have any final thoughts?
Final thoughts. My final thoughts are, I think that as individuals, whether you have kids or you don't have kids, I feel like we all have a certain responsibility to our community, to step in when you're in a situation where you can step in. If you have a personal relationship with that individual or individuals, we all have a responsibility to be role models to a certain extent. And don't be afraid to be that, because I feel like in certain instances we're taking 25 steps back. And again, like you said, we're not that far away from slavery. And when you think about it, when we look back on our ancestors, many of them are not here any longer. But when you look back on them, you look at those people and you're proud of them. You know what I mean? It's a legacy. They wanted to make things better for us, and
We're here off their backs, literally.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's just like, does that really look right? Nah, we're all a reflection of one another. So do your part,
Mm-hmm. Well, before we close out, before I do my final thoughts, I have a word from one of our sponsors of tonight's show.
Melodiq Celebrations, specializing in event decorations. Call us today for a quote so we can make your next event beautiful.
Final thought for the show is understanding situational awareness, being aware, as they say, people used to say, to be aware is to be alive. I mean, we have to take that literally. Understanding decorum, understanding respect for our elders and our youth. Not out here showing our ass to show our ass, because as we would say, we're grown, and understand that our youth are looking at us. And that's about it. Appreciate everybody who will watch the show. Appreciate you guys. Appreciate Melodiq Storm once again for coming through and providing us with a great title and a great discussion. With that, everybody take care, and we will see you soon.
Conversations with friends.